we went live a little early before this buffer. So
I was a fan of that too.
there we go, and mute that so we don't hear ourselves. I'm gonna wait for the stream health to maybe bump up from poor,
Good idea.
and then I'll put us live over on LinkedIn.
That I never confirmed that I was going to be there. So I was teasing all our viewers.
Okay. I want to actually see if I can see comments this time, if anybody leaves any, because where were you seeing those?
So on the event page itself on LinkedIn, like right now it's pre-live, so I can't see it.
Okay, I just went live.
Okay, cool. So like when you go to the live page itself, you see like an about, a comments, and a networking section in the like right side of LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
Um,
So I was just viewing it through the live dashboard here, and there's a comments, and that's where, I assumed it would live update with comments, but it seems like it did not. So okay, so comments. Do I have to join the room to see here?
I think so.
Okay, so I'll join my own room, and maybe this will get. That's weird because on the the event dashboard where I sent us live, I see the stream. There's also a comment section here, and this is where I have in the past done exactly this. Said join us in the huddle, right, and put out that meeting. Us in the
Yeah, I see what
huddle
you
chat
mean.
room and post the link and hit that. Then I would assume that this would live update when
I
other
do
people
see that.
comment here, right?
I saw the huddle that you just posted.
Yeah. Maybe okay. There's probably a delay that maybe
Yeah.
the comments go along with the delay in the video. So it's possible that all of the comments that people put up last time, which was awesome to see, those might have all just been after I last checked the dashboard. Because I eventually was just pretty fully focused on what we were doing, and I wasn't checking back to the dashboard.
That's right.
So that might have just been it. There might not be a problem at all, and it's just me getting too focused in on what I'm doing. Let's see, maybe we gotta turn that a little bit.
Okay. What is the state of your project right now? Do you have the same error for the event being passed into the handle submit function?
Oh, I guess I haven't even started it up yet.
Okay. I pulled down from master and then I merged into my court branch.
Okay, let me. Yeah, I'm behind on everything currently. So let me.
Well, then you are a real developer.
Heyo. Let's see. Okay, so that's booting up, and then I need to get up my. I guess we're on time now, so maybe we should stop and say hello and welcome to another episode of Upskill&Chill.
Hey,
We are
everybody.
your hosts, Spencer and Courtney, and we are picking up from where we left off last time. Working on building a to-do app inside of a Nuxt.js project, simply as a medium for learning about all sorts of things. So we're currently in the process of kind of building a React form. We're going to do some Tailwind theme outlining or addition or whatever you want to call that. We could talk about adventures with Prettier here in a moment because we were going to be doing that. Yeah, just learning all sorts of things. So it's not super structured. It's pretty casual. Coffee is strongly encouraged.
Here.
Warm beverage of some sort. And otherwise, we are here. We are live, and I need to see if I can get a running environment.
That's a good start. How was your week?
Oh goodness. Okay.
Did you get a lot of coding done this week?
Okay. So first things first. I told myself this twice today, and I screwed it up both times. I'm working, also doing some stuff on another project that is on an older version of Node. So I told myself before going in there,
Oh,
I got to remember to, because I was on like a newer version. I neglected to switch to the older version before working in there, and then got errors, and then had to reset all that.
oh
And then
boy.
I told myself, okay, make sure you switch back to the newer version of Node before you go on stream today, Spencer. And
And what did you do?
what did I forget to do? Yeah, exactly. Uh, okay, now I'm back on 21. I am so glad that I gave Node Version Manager um, a second look, because the instructions for getting it to work on Windows was a little intimidating. It ended up not being too bad, and I remember trying to go through the process once and just not having it work. And then I came to a point again where I really needed it, so I had to sit down and like actually try and understand what was going on. And I got it to work, and now it is such a great tool to have. Are you aware of Node Version Manager?
No, I'm not sure I am. So this just allows you to switch pretty smoothly between versions of
Yeah,
Node. Is
it's
that
just
the
it's
big
just
deal?
it's a command line tool,
Okay.
NVM, right? V as in Victor, Node Version Manager, right? And you can have multiple versions of Node preloaded, and then you just go NVM use 21, and it switches you over to Node version 21. NVM use
That is simple.
18, and now you're running on Node 18, right? And it I didn't think it was something I was going to need until I got to the point where I needed to use a newer version and an older version depending on project. And now, like, the idea of like, otherwise you'd have to like uninstall Node and reinstall the version you want, and then uninstall Node and reinstall the version you want, which would just be ridiculous. So uh, now
That's a
I
lot to
should.
coordinate, definitely.
Okay, I actually have our lovely, lovely to do app. There's never been a more beautiful, more featureful to do application in all the world.
That's right. That's right. It's still young and beautiful. It hasn't been corrupted by all our, as you've called it, tech debt yet.
Tech debt. There's no CSS. There's no
No.
zombie classes, zombie selectors hanging around that don't actually do anything anymore. Um, yeah. Okay. So how? Let's see. How do we want to start? Let me look at my notes. Um, so yeah, you had asked me the question about how I was doing if I coded a lot this week.
Yeah.
What have I done this week? I've done a lot this week, and now I'm having a hard time. Yeah. So I'm working on a couple of things, but I have an opportunity for a take home for a job interview currently. So I knew that was coming, so I spent some time kind of the job is would be using Retool, which is a low code platform for building like dashboards mainly. So you deal with a lot of like data, pulling in data, and then it's a lot of drag and drop for element components on screen, and then you hook them up to each other to do what you want, so you can build dashboards quickly. So I ended up just having dive into some tutorials and some documentation, and learning a bunch of that quickly, which is actually kind of fun. It's actually kind of neat to use something like that. I've kind of, I steered away from it, trying to be a purist, being like, no, I'm a developer. I code things, you know. Um, but it's
I
actually
won't
been
even
kind of
use a
cool.
framework. I'll build it from assembly.
Yeah, exactly. So it's actually been kind of cool and fun to learn that, and now I actually have the project specifications. So just kind of working towards that, which is exciting. It's cool. Um, and then everything else that's been going. I've been trying to post a lot this week, so I've made one post every day.
Doing a
Talk
good
about
job with that.
so we're on the job search kick now. So that's one post per day. Been trying to pull material out of our stream from last week, and I think it's been going very well. I've been very happy with what it's encouraged. I've learned things, which is the whole point, right? So we're learning on stream and then learning post stream by further investigating those topics and subjects, which is super cool. So
Yeah, it's like
yeah,
on stream we figure out what we need to learn more about, and then off stream is where
yeah,
the deep version of that, looking at
yeah.
a screen for hours, reading
Yeah,
things, articles and such,
yeah,
that deep learning
and
comes
then
in.
sharing that with our viewers, like through posts, and maybe sharing some stuff here as well. So I think that's a good, because doing that like here, sitting down and okay, so what is the difference between a function declaration and a function expression when it comes to the keyword this, right? Like actually doing that on stream would be terribly boring. I think we should just like sloppily code things and then figure out why they're wrong and then fix them later.
And give
How
give
about
a
you?
good abridged versions.
Yeah, how's your week?
Honestly, I have had a wacky week myself. I've been on actually a pretty good coding run, pretty much every day in the month of April until this last week. I'd pushed some code. I'd made some progress on various either concepts or applications that I've been working on. This week I did do some work on learning about web scraping.
Oh,
So
okay.
I've encountered web scraping before. I've utilized scrapers built by others, but I've never built one by myself. So this was my first week using Python to just try to do simple things like go to Wikipedia and grab a table and deposit that into a CSV or things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, super cool.
So I've been struggling against that, but I was able to get some buttons to click and things without actually manually doing it, just by running a program. So that was exciting.
Nice. Who needs
But
the
other than
mouse when
that,
you can code scripts?
yeah, I know. Well, I know you like Vim, so why use the mouse ever?
Yeah, I mean, really.
But otherwise, I've had family in town, and then I'm also going on a trip starting next week. I'm going to Europe. Yay! So I won't be here for a couple weeks. You'll have to
Why are you
carry
going
on
to
without
Europe?
me.
Why are
I'm
you
going
going
on
to
tour
Europe?
with a band.
Yeah!
Yay!
Music stuff.
I'm taking the show on the road, as they say.
Are you taking the six
I'll,
string?
no, I'm taking the four string. Too many strings for flying, I think.
I think they'd stop you at customs and be like, sir,
Uh,
excuse me.
Sir, this is a
This,
bass. You gotta take two
th-
strings off or go
this is
home.
no good. Deported.
No, looking forward to that though. Looking forward to disconnecting. It's similar to you, but I've been on the job search and exhausting myself through all those various activities. I'm looking forward to disconnecting and exploring the world a bit. You know, meeting all of our European fans, of which there are many, I'm sure.
Yes, yes. Our stream is huge in
Yours and
Europe.
mine, I mean.
Yeah, yeah. I got what you're saying. Our stream is actually huge in Europe.
Yeah. You wouldn't believe it, but so well, along those lines, one thing we talked about, we're both musicians. We wanted to share just something we've been listening to lately. There were no other guidelines than what's just something that you like that you've been listening to. Um, so I don't know what's the best way. Should I post a YouTube link in the comments? Maybe that's
Yeah, share it in the um you could share it in the huddle chat, and yeah, definitely put it in the LinkedIn chat just to document it or catalog it there as well.
okay. Well, since I'm going first. I I'm a jazz guy. I love jazz. I play in a
Okay.
blues band.
Okay.
That's the band that's going to Europe. And at the intersection, there are quite a few artists. And one person I've been listening to a lot lately is Wes Montgomery. He's a jazz guitarist
Ah,
from
yes.
like the late '50s through the '60s, essentially. And I've been listening to one of his classics, D Natural Blues, which I think is off. I'm not sure if it's his first album as a band leader, but I think it is. The incredible jazz guitar of Wes Montgomery. But if you're a jazz or blues fan, all five of you out there listening, you will find a lot of delight and pleasure from listening to this track if you don't already know it. So I'll go ahead and post it here. Um,
Okay.
Tim at his best. And with that, I will pass it over to Spencer. What you been listening to lately, man?
One moment. I
Hmm.
want to get just like at least a taste of this.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
of music and all those complications. So everybody will have to listen to it on their own. But I just want to. Okay, yeah, I know. So I have very few drummer friends. I had multiple drummer friends while I was in college. We were all going to class together and everything. But getting out in the working world, I spend all of my time not with drummers because we never play together. So I know a lot of. I hung out mostly with guitar players and some bass players. So I am aware of Wes Montgomery, and I also did jazz history in college. Um, so I know how influential he was, and his stuff is always just like it seems simple, but it's just so perfectly executed. Is
Yeah,
is how I would have to summarize Wes Montgomery's playing. Iconic guitar player, and like essential study for anybody doing that. Okay, very cool. I'll listen to more of that later. I definitely want to give that a full. All right, so I'm going to go a bit of a different direction.
beautiful.
So my background and in enjoyment and listening and a lot of playing, but not as much professionally, was like rock and metal. I love me some metal, especially like progressive metal, instrumental metal, all that kinds of stuff. Um, but then in college, I got really into enjoying a lot of really cool fusion groups, particularly
Oh, okay.
guitar-led fusion groups, like rock fusion, jazz fusion, more leaning towards like a rock funk sound, but with like jazz harmony and chops, if that makes sense. Like I love
Yeah,
that combination of sounds when you have just like a really good guitar player who knows their chords and knows their theory, but then plays it like a rock guitar player with like the screaming lead tones and everything. So, um, my song is what's even the name of this song? UTFF. I don't know why it's called that, but it's by so it's a duo. There's Jack Rainier and the other guy goes by Owain. These guys both have stuff on YouTube. You should absolutely check them out. Um, they are phenomenal guitar players, and their music is such a fun, vibey sound. This track in particular is featuring Heinrich Lindier or
oh,
Linder,
yeah. Oh, Heinrich's a
and he has a.
great bass
I,
player.
I picked this for you, Courtney, because I was wondering if you knew who he was. And
Yeah,
there is
definitely.
just such a beautiful, smooth, but like kind of choppy bass solo in this song, and it's rad. Like this whole song, this album, everything done by these two guys, they're like jointly and separately, is just banging.
Yeah,
So
I'm listening to a bit right now. I definitely recommend everyone go check this out because there's also like the video is great as well. I would say it's
yeah.
like
It's way
everyone
over
in
the
their own
top.
places.
It's ridiculous. It's awesome.
No, that's killing music. I love it.
Okay, so I think we have our answer. My dashboard here did not update with your comment.
Let's see. Oh, interesting.
Going
I
back
didn't
to
get
that
yours yet
subject,
either.
but I haven't posted it there yet because I was too busy gushing about all this. But I'm gonna go over here on a separate tab, and we're still getting this all figured out. Still getting it all figured out. Um, okay, I'm not gonna worry about it right now. I'm just gonna put my comment in here, and I know it'll get included. Um,
Okay. Well, with that, shall we jump into some code? A little bit of the upskill to go with our chill.
yes. Um, we it's like we're doing a music stream. Just slowly but surely we're gonna morph into a music stream. But
It's
okay,
gonna be yeah, it's gonna be mostly music and 5 minutes of coding at the end
yeah,
for anyone that stuck
exactly,
with us.
exactly. Okay, so we have a few items that we wanted to touch on and discuss before we maybe even get back into the React form thing. We wanted to briefly talk about the prettier and the prettier RC thing, what that is, why we're doing it. Our maybe throw in our Tailwind theme options. We don't have to necessarily style anything with them right now, but just putting them in place because that
Yes.
connects to last week. And then talking about my uh, console log misunderstanding, which made me realize that when I get in a situation like this, excuse me. I get very tunnel vision on what I'm trying to accomplish, and I like lose thoughts and words and other thought process. So like when I was asking you, do you like function like function keyword, or I said const functions? Like I knew the words function declaration and function expression, and I know the difference between those two, but they were not entering my brain. And just like I was trying to console log something out when we're doing a state update in a React component, I know you don't put that into the like update handler. You put that in the body of the component, and I know why, and we can go over that. But it's just funny that I'm seeing, like, watching back over the stream again. I'm seeing myself and realizing that like I get this weird tunnel vision situation. So, although that's no news to my wife. You can talk to her about my tunnel vision, and she'll let you know.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you bring that up, specifically about the console log thing. There's so many things in coding that I know that they work, but I'm not always entirely sure how they work or
Yeah.
why they work and what that point is. And I think that there's a lot to be gained in really understanding why. I found over the years, I did the boot camp route for the breadth of my training, I would say, and we learned so much so quickly. It's not possible in 3 months to fully flesh out your understanding of everything because
Hmm.
you're spending so much time just learning new things and then building, right? But since then, I've had multiple times, even recently, even with this console.log situation we're talking about, that I finally realized, oh, that's why that works that way. That's how that works. This is what's actually going on. How the sausage is being made, if you
Mm.
will. And it helps make me a better developer. It means that next time I tackle this problem or start a new app, even I make better choices for the architecture and the structure of what I'm attempting to accomplish. So I always it's good when we don't know on stream, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's some saying along the lines of like the first, the first step to wisdom is acknowledging that you don't know anything.
Mm,
Um, I'm sure because you can only learn when you know that you need to learn. And yeah, coding is such a broad, wide, deep subject. Even just the small sliver of code of like web development, like front end web development, and then it's still
mhm.
like more than a person can learn in a lifetime. Um, and yeah, you see these things, these conventions just happen over and over and over again. Um, and it's like, what's going on there? So, um, I'm going to. Do we want to start with the console log thing? Do you want me to talk through
Sure.
my understanding of
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Show us
Uh,
what we're talking about.
I am going to do my first time git switch C Spencer.
Oh, okay.
There we go. I've done it. It works and it's awesome. And anybody who's been reading my posts this week knows what's going on. Okay, so let me confirm that. Okay, just want to make sure everything is still live. We're still here. Yep. Okay, cool. So I guess I'll share my screen.
Okay.
Um, go into this real
And
quick.
so to make sure that I'm remembering correctly, uh, where we were last week is that we were trying to set up a handle change for an input so that every time a user enters a new letter or character into that particular input, that the state was changing correspondingly, so that whatever the value of that field was is the value that was being stored as well. Is that right?
I apologize. I got tunnel vision. Can you repeat your question again here? Just because
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
want. Sorry.
And actually, now that you have this up, I'll ask it more directly. So for the task body input, I think what we were trying to do is set it up so that the handle change function would correctly update the entire state of our form anytime any of these fields is updated. And by updated, I just mean that somebody wrote some kind of text or characters into that field. So if I were to write this into the task body input, that you would be able to log the state of our whole form, and you would see that task body was equal to this.
Correct.
And the problem we were running into is that we were trying to console log the value of whatever we were updating inside the handle change function, and it seemed like it was always a step behind. Like
Yep.
it was always logging the last state, not what should be the current state.
Right.
And so there's a reason that we don't log inside of that function, and I assume that's what you're about to explain.
Yeah. Now, I want to make sure that I'm, yeah, everything you said is correct. I just want to make sure
Okay.
that I'm understanding this correctly. But yeah, so it's because of how set state is updated, and it's not. This is actually one reason I really like Vue over React. I'll say that is that I don't know all the technical language of it, but Vue uses signals, I think, or more like signals. And that's the type of thing where it's procedural. Like if you write just like raw um, JavaScript, you can set a variable to a new value, and on the very next line, you can access that variable, and it will be that value, right?
Okay. Okay.
Set state does not work that way in React. It take I This would be a subject to dig into more as to I remember learning about it a while back when I went through a React course to learn more about why this happens. But there's a bit of a delay, or it's just a different way of a paradigm of working. So we can set state here on this line, but then trying to console log here on the next line isn't going to instantly give you the updated version of state. Because what happens when you set state is that it sets the state to whatever you set it to, and then React, the library or the framework, however you want to look at it, will realize and recognize that you made a change to a state variable, and then it re-renders your entire component on that change, right? And then that's how it's reactive, right? It senses a change in state, and then it will update your component to show that state. Um, but that means that it's not necessarily reading from top down when a state change happens. So what happens? What we actually want to do, what we can do, is we can just put our console log right here. It doesn't have to be right underneath this. That doesn't matter. It could just like in the body, like down here too, or we could put it down here. It doesn't matter because what's going to happen is the state will be updated. The component is going to be re-rendered and therefore rerun. Like this from top to bottom, this will be rerun. And then handle change and handle submit don't get called automatically. So it's just going to like look down through here, look for anything that it's supposed to like, oh, here, do you want me to run this when I get to this line because it's a function call, and then it will run it. So it reevaluates the component and then runs it. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I am interested why they have it set up as such, but perhaps it's me misunderstanding exactly what's happening in the function that we call that updates the state. So in this case, set task data. There must be something else going on there because it makes intuitive sense that you would run that, it would update the state, and then you could console log right after. But as you said, it's not exactly that way.
It's not procedural.
Yeah.
It's not like a global variable
Mm.
up at the top of your file. Like in vanilla.js, you have a global variable. On line 200, you set your global variable from 0 to 1. And then on line 201, you console log that global variable
Mm.
and then get your result. It's not that setup. It's this
Sure.
idea of state causes re-renders. I'm sure React veterans are shaking their head at me thinking that I should understand this better, and I should. That's why we're here. But as you can see now, this works, right?
Ah, love it.
So as with every change, we're going to update the state. The component will be re-rendered, and then on re-render, the state will be set to what we set it to in the previous form, and then it will take it and log it. So that's a long-winded long time explanation of all that, but hopefully that was helpful.
Lovely. Yeah, that totally makes sense. At the very least, you and myself and anybody viewing with us will understand where they should be logging. You know, you're if I can summarize what you said, we can put it in the body, or rather, the JavaScript section of our component, because the component re-renders when the data is updated, and we really only want to track after it's re-rendered. We want to check after the state has actually been set. Otherwise, we're
Yeah,
really only logging right before.
yeah. And I mean, if we wanted to do this another way, we could bring in use effect, and then
Mm,
and then put the console log inside of use effect. That's a little overkill, but then you could control when and how often and on under what conditions that that console log should be console logged, because that's what use effect does.
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a
Okay.
nice little explainer from last week.
Yeah.
Um, so one other thing we've done since last week, Spencer approached me about using Prettier, which is an extension. So you have your own version of Prettier in Vim. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's still just prettier, but it's because Vim doesn't have plugin the install extension plugin thing the way VS Code does. It's just being brought in through a configuration file, but it's still just prettier. It's the same. It's the same
Okay.
plugin.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I'll share my screen real
Yeah,
quick, and I can just walk
absolutely. I was
through the
just
options that we have agreed on, which is not many, but enough work to discuss at least.
there's actually not many, and you don't need much. But really,
No, I don't think so.
it's about just having just being on the same page between both of our ends, because we're both pushing to the same project. So we want our formatting changes to be identical. So those aren't being constantly updated by Git.
Exactly. And actually, I'll have to set that up so that we're not. I'm not sending you things you don't need. But it's basically in a JSON format, and we have these 5 settings that we're basically going to have Prettier enforce on our code. So whether or not Spencer or myself actually type it out and format it this way, it will enforce this formatting. Um, so just to run through them real quick, semi. This just means, are we going to add a semicolon to the end of every proper statement in our JavaScript, which Spencer and I don't think we need. I personally think that it's a lot easier to read without the semicolons. It may not seem like much, but I'll show you after this what it looks like when we remove them all, and it does create a cleaner layout. That said, there are situations where not putting the semicolon in could potentially cause problems, and I don't fully understand that. Maybe that's something I can look into for next week, or the next time I'm here at least. But suffice it to say, Prettier will still place semicolons where they are necessary and otherwise omit them. Um, we've opted for single quote as opposed to double quotes. What this means is that for strings and for certain other functions of quotes, you can use either double or single quotes. I'm not sure, actually, Spencer, why you prefer this, but for me, again, it's a readability thing. I think the fewer characters on the screen, the easier it is for my eyes to find what I'm looking for, and so
It's
it will
also
prioritize
it's also
single
one less.
quotes.
Sorry to interrupt. It's also one less keystroke. So when you're going to make a new string,
Ah,
you can just hit the single quote button instead of having to go shift to make it a double quote.
that's a great point. I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah,
But
one less thing
mostly,
for your fingers to press.
yeah, but mostly, yes, visual clutter. Just having single quotes is, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you look at pages and pages of code constantly, those semicolons, the double quotes, those things, it's one extra thing your brain has to process on every line, and it's just easier not to.
Exactly. And then, yeah, moving through these, use tabs. So we're indenting with tabs instead of spaces. Again, this is largely just a visual choice, but I just think on the opposite end of things, it's nice when there's space in between just all the lines of code that we're reading. It can be a little hard to see sometimes, especially when you're looking at a longer piece of HTML or something like that, what level each one of the elements is on. And same goes for JavaScript or anything else that we're working with here. So having that 2 spaces instead of just one for our indents makes a
So,
difference.
so you're talking about tab width right now, correct?
I think so.
So use
I
tabs
could I
just
could be
means
wrong.
that when it formats and indents your code properly, it is inserting
Oh,
tab
oh,
characters instead of space characters. And I don't
gotcha.
remember this. I don't remember the specific situations where spaces are problematic, but there are situations where either code parsers or something
Hmm.
that's going to like go through and read your code, space characters can cause problems
I see. Okay.
where tab characters do not, because they're a different thing under the hood, right? On our screen it just looks like it moves a line over, but it's actually putting, a character in there to say, hey, move this over by a certain amount of space. And there's something, I think it's because you use space characters as white space in other places, either between things or in,
Mm,
in strings. So I think it could there's something that can potentially get confused and messed up if you have all these space characters as opposed to tab characters.
Today I learned that there is a difference between space and tab characters. Tab is not simply extra space characters. Well, okay. Going along with what Spencer just mentioned, yes, our tab width, we've set it to 2 spaces. It seems like I haven't seen this conversation in a while, but it seems like at one point at least there was a lot of discourse around. Do you have your tab set to 4 spaces, which I believe is the original or the traditional
Mm.
tab width, or 2 spaces, which is what I favor again for readability. Spencer also mentioned, so one thing we can do on our various code editors is pull up 2 different files. And if you're using 4 spaces for your tabs, it very quickly becomes unreadable horizontally. You will have to start scrolling from one side to the other, or depending on how you visualize your code, it could mash it all up. I think. Let's see if I can change this setting. Never mind. We'll get back to that.
Yeah, I
But
understand what you're saying.
the overflow settings can sometimes be a little difficult to deal with. So again, we're going to stick with uh, 2 spaces for our tabs, and then trailing commas. We're essentially setting it so that in all objects, and I'm actually not sure in JavaScript if this is true for arrays, but we're going to have a trailing comma inserted after the last member, just as a matter of default, as long as it doesn't cause errors, because it just makes things easier to move around, and you always have that next. Like if you want to add a property to your object, for instance, writing the next key, you don't have to remember to add the comma every single time to the end, which, believe it or not, saves a lot of time on errors and just time in general. I've
I
definitely
did that
many a
multiple
time run
times
into that.
in the last couple of weeks. I've run into adding something to an object, moving forward quickly, running into an error, having to track it down, and just realizing forgot to add a comma to the last line or last item in that object before I added the new one at the bottom, and yeah, waste of time.
And so, with that in mind, here's the state of our particular app, our to do. Hold on, let me see. This is the page for our to do list, essentially. And I haven't enforced any of these changes yet. I've configured my VS Code to enforce these prettier formatting changes on save. So anytime I'm saving, it's going to go ahead and adjust anything that needs adjusting. So you'll notice that we still have a ton of semicolons left over. So if I save, oh, and apparently Prettier does not want to operate. Let's try this again. Okay, well, apparently Prettier is now mad at me. Let me try this. Maybe it's because I'm having a problem here with this type of this event. Let's see if this changes anything. Oh, that may be
There.
holding me back. I save and look, all the semicolons are gone. So my next push is going to look a lot different than than what the number of lines. I mean, the number of lines I changed is going to make it seem like I made sweeping changes. But all that really happened is some formatting. I'll go ahead and save that right now, actually.
Yeah, and then I'm
But
gonna
yeah.
I'm gonna pull that down because I actually don't have your pretty RC. You created that, and my last pull didn't include it.
Okay. And actually, now that I'm looking at this, you probably don't want. I probably don't want to pass the VS Code folder up to you. Um,
No.
So let me do a little research. How do I remove that from my? I need to
Git ignore,
unstage.
or
Well, I
okay,
actually.
if it's already staged, then yeah. It's restore -- staged,
Okay, thank
I think.
you.
So git
Git
restore --
restore.
staged, and then that directory name,
Oh, I have
or
to specify a path. So I can probably. So you're talking about
like dots.
.vs code.
Yeah, and if you hit tab, it might just auto complete it for you too.
Okay. Oh, perfect. And so yeah, that was removed. In fact, I'm going to add it to our git ignore. I
Yeah,
think.
yes.
We'll call
It's
this.
so funny how many things sneak into your Git because they get neglected in the .git ignore.
It's true.
I've had some serious issues with that before. Like I had my .env file end up in my Git and then get pushed out to my remote because the project I was working with, like, it didn't have it. It didn't have .env in the .git ignore. It's such an omission, and it caused me a headache to try and get that.
Yeah, I've definitely made that mistake before too. Never push your .env up, or you're going to have to find new keys or private variables.
Luckily, it was an app where it really didn't matter that much. So I looked into it for a while just to look into like what if that happens, and it's an absolute headache if that happens. Either way, like to pull it back out of your Git history is ridiculous, or you have to go and change all your keys, right? Generate new keys, which is just terrible. So yeah, protect your .env, as I'm sure most people are aware. But
Even us saying that, most people will still learn the hard way. I imagine.
yeah, I
I
did.
certainly did. Okay, I'm gonna pull these into the to our main branch, and then you can pull it down, and it'll cascade into all of our other branches. Cool. Again, not practicing good GitHubbing, but you all know why we're doing it, just to
Yeah,
keep things moving.
trying to have something move quickly because
Exactly.
we tend to not move too quickly here, which is fine. It's not about moving quickly. All right.
Okay,
So have
so now
you pushed and you merged?
I pushed and I merged. Things should be
Okay.
looking good
Yep.
on your
There's
end
my
too.
poll. I'm just gonna delete my local branch and then git switch C Spencer again, and here I am. And now if we go, what is that? To do page and then I save.
Is yours not is your prettier not enforcing the formatting of the save?
I mean, I don't have the prettier.
Oh, interesting. Here, I'm gonna hand you the screen. Let's figure this out together.
Well, I didn't pull it from. Is it on the GitHub?
Oh, it should be. Let me take a look.
If nothing else, I'll just create one and you can pass me that object because we don't have to spend a ton of more time on it. But I did pull, and it pulled changes.
Okay, so you pulled it on the master branch.
But then my other changes are still here. Yeah, I pulled from master, and then I deleted my branch and created a new branch by the same name. And now I actually have the same changes that I had made here previously. Good grief.
Twilight Zone.
Let's. Okay, I don't. I'm going to stop my local development. I'm going to exit out of NeoVim. Can you confirm for me that the prettier RC is in the GitHub repo?
Yes, I can, and I do see it on the master branch.
Okay, and it's just in the root directory with like .git ignore and all that, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
It's one of many wonderful things that we get sidetracked with while we're trying to
The
build
local
applications.
changes to the following files would be overwritten by merge. Please commit your changes or stash them before you merge. Huh, okay.
Oh, did it fail to merge because you hadn't stored your changes
Yeah,
yet?
because I'd made some, so I'm just deleting my branch again. Let's see, get status. Oh, but it's holding on to that change. Okay, so I'm just gonna
Do you
get
get wrapped?
restore
Okay.
that file to just ditch it. Git pull. Now I can pull, and there's the change to get ignored and the prettier. Okay, so I had made that change in mine, and I hadn't committed anything yet because I
See.
wasn't going to commit that change. I thought just wiping my branch, and then oh, that's right. This has caught me on more than one occasion. When you're on a working branch and you have changes that you've made, and you switch branches, your changes follow you. They
That's
do
right.
not live on that branch. So I thought by switching to master and deleting Spencer, that I just like did away with all that. I could pull fresh and make a new branch. But my changes came with me. That's why it was still in my working directory. So okay, so I could have stashed or whatever. This works fine. So for the third time, git switch dash c Spencer. Here we are, and then I can start everything back up. Okay, that's a good refresh on that. I'm getting ahead of myself. Man, with Git, you've got to be so watchful on
You gotta get good
all
with
those
Git.
movements. Yeah. Well, like normally it's not a problem because like if I'm on a branch and I'm making changes, I intend to commit and save and push those changes on that branch.
That's right.
But
I see.
here I was just fiddling around in there, moving that console log around. I was like, I don't need to commit that change. But then it became an issue. Okay, so now yeah, and my file is already formatted, except all of my strings for my HTML input attributes are still double quotes. Maybe that's a subsetting or something. I'm pretty sure I have some internal settings in the plugin that came along with it when I set it up that just ended up getting copied over. So there might be a specification there, and that's fine. I actually kind of do like double quotes on my HTML attribute strings. I don't know why, but it's fine. Everything else is, single quotes and no semis. And okay, we can proceed. This is a particularly sluggish episode.
It's okay.
But
I actually noticed the same thing. I'm noticing that my all my quotes, at least in the HTML, are still double quotes.
oh, okay, so it's not just me. All right.
Yeah, and I do tend to kind of prefer that myself. I don't know
That
why. It might be just how I learned, and that's what I'm used to seeing. But anyway,
doesn't matter. It's all
okay.
good. Cool.
So we wanted to clean up our form and make sure that that was operating in the most how would you call it? The most modern and streamlined way. And so we've been reading about uncontrolled versus controlled forms, and I think we're going to implement a controlled form. And actually, let me. Do you want me to take lead on this, or do you want to share your screen? I'm with either way.
You can go ahead. You can start, and we can pass it off at some point.
Okay, come back. Select my window. Cool. Okay, so this is the state of things where we'd left it. One thing I want to change right off the bat is this typing, just because this is not. Don't use any. If you're using any, what's the point of even using TypeScript? I only did this so that I could show you the prettier changes. But now that that's done, handle submit. So I think we might have even done this last week. It's hard for me to remember. Is it form event? Does that feel like?
So we made a change to the typing on the event in the handle change function.
Right.
We didn't have a typing on the handle submit function yet.
Okay, and I believe it's a form event. In fact, let me consult the docs. There's no problem with that. Let's take a
So
look
here's
at
this article, and I'm going to share this article in the comments.
And so it looks like TypeScript is not mad at me for not passing in the HTML form event. form element, I think, actually. Yes, form element part of this. TypeScript is pretty smart and can generally tell what you're trying to do within a certain, to a certain point at least. Um, since it wasn't throwing up an error, I'm inclined to leave this off, since I believe this is all we're handling inside of our handle submit, at least for now, and probably all that would require the event itself. Since we'll be controlling the state of all of our inputs, we won't necessarily need to access the form itself. Does that sound right to you? Once we're actually doing something and submitting, besides preventing the reloading of the page, which
Right.
is where
Yeah.
we're at right now.
I think that's about right. I mean,
Okay.
when we come down to it, the on submit is going to trigger. We're going to take whatever is in that state because the state will have already been updated, and then we'll pass that off to our backend. So in the on
Right.
submit is where we're going to do a call to our backend endpoint to save the to do to our database.
That's right. Okay. Okay. So we have that. I'll go ahead and commit that, since it's a small change, but it is somewhat a self-contained concept. Type handle submit event. Atomic commits, yay. Okay, so we talked about Spencer and I had defined a model essentially off screen of what is our task that we're creating going to look like. What is the data that's required? What's optional? What are the types and all that? And maybe what would be useful right now is just to leave ourselves a little note on specifically what those things are, right? And then we can just build from that note.
Love it.
I don't always do this, to be honest, but I should do it all the time because it does make development a lot faster. So we'll call this to do item. And I actually made
Do you
a
want
little
to do
shorthand.
a multi-line comment so you don't have to keep doing the double dash?
Oh, talk to me. How's that work?
So forward slash, if I'm not mistaken here.
Mm-hmm.
I always have to check it with myself as to which one it is. Yeah, forward
Actually, I tell you
slash
what, let's do
star
oh
star
yes,
forward slash,
star, and then the ending
and
is
then the end is
star forward
star
slash.
forward slash.
Beautiful. Okay, yeah, this is going to be a lot easier, a lot more manageable.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me pull up my little cheat sheet. So we know that for one, we're going to need a task name. I'm going to add some extra notes here because I know what's coming ahead of us when we start defining models and stuff. But this is going to be required because if you don't have a task name, you really aren't using this correctly. And and I think this will be a string type.
Look at you being so
In
thorough
addition,
all the way through. Love it.
you know what? I've made the mistake of not being thorough way too many times. Now, for both, we're going to add a description. So this is like an optional further clarifying of what this task actually means. Some tasks are probably going to be self-explanatory by the title, but some might require some extra context. So we have our description there. Next, we talked about having a priority level. Once you start creating longer and more complex to-do lists, you realize that you need to start figuring out what needs to be done first, last, what's more important, what's urgent, that kind of thing. I'd
Or you could
written
be
out
like
the time.
me and just make everything top 100% priority, red,
Everything is red alert.
and then hate your life because you can't prioritize. I have such a bad habit of that. Everything is top priority when it's very much not.
You know, when you add a thing to a to-do list, it does feel like top priority. Um, I typed this as a string. I'm not sure
Hmm.
if this is going to be string or a particular set of strings. Meaning, like, I don't know if we're going to have only 3 or 4 classifications that someone could apply, but
It could also be a number. We could do like
sure, it could.
priority 1, 2, 3 would be an option instead of doing strings.
Actually, I do
I'm
think
not sure which way
numeric
you wanna
system
go.
makes more sense.
I think it
That
does a
makes more
little
sense
bit.
because then you can evaluate. You can evaluate
Yeah, you don't have to
greater or less than.
handle string stuff and whatnot. Yeah, greater than, less than. Yeah, that's a great example. You could just that'll be so simple for filtering.
Perfect. So we'll have that be a number. We're gonna have a creation date. This will be assigned automatically. Um, oops. And I suppose, I mean, they usually seem to come in the form of a string, but I think it's like a date type. Is
It's a
that,
date object. Yeah, it'll
it's
be
a
a
date
date
object?
object.
Okay. Okay, perfect, perfect.
Either well, we can get a date object. Then if we wanted to, we could just take a timestamp.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
should be a timestamp. So you get the date object, and then you get your timestamp out of your date object, and you just save the timestamp, because that's the epoch, however you want to say it, timestamp.
Yes.
And that with that you can later figure out what that day was. Um, you have to do more stuff that way, but you can just save it as a simple string that way, and then you have to process it later instead of saving an entire object of data.
I see. Okay. So
It's just
I'll,
a string that'll just be a large number. It's going to be milliseconds since I can't remember what the date is. Sometime in the 1970s. It's like how many milliseconds have passed since that date in the 1970s.
yeah, I know exactly the one you mean. Okay, I'm gonna put string just in here. I
Yeah.
know that it probably won't be saved as a date type, but dates are treated somewhat differently, so we'll keep that in mind. And then along those lines, we had a due date. Uh, we could also, call this like deadline or something like that.
Yeah.
And I suppose this would be a similar sort of thing where it'll be basically a date, potentially a time as well, that fits the same format. I mean, this creation date. Is this optional, or do we want to make this something
I'd say
that is
optional. I would
required?
say optional for sure.
I wasn't sure about that
Yeah, I think so.
because not everything necessarily has a due date.
No.
Um, you know, Sweeping, mopping, those kinds of things, cleaning the house. Though depending on where you are, maybe you're cleanly, and therefore you.
Oh,
But either way, I was thinking.
you're kind of cutting out a bit. Yep. I can't hear you. Not getting anything at the moment. Hello? I can't hear you if you're saying anything. Aha. Okay. Co-host has dropped. All right. Well, that's our second instance of technical difficulties. The first time, and we're back? Almost. Hello? Looks like Courtney might be having some connectivity issues. Internet speed. As I was saying, in the first episode, I didn't quite, even though we had pre-flighted it once before and it went fine, actually went live for our first episode, and I did things in kind of a wrong order, and we ended up going live, but the LinkedIn event ended. Like I had ended that thinking that I could just restart it, but once you end a LinkedIn live event, it's just done, and you have to create a whole new event and restart and whatnot. So, this is our latest instance of. Let me see if Courtney is saying anything in a chat app here at all. Nothing there. And nothing in the chat, nothing in the comments. All right, well, let's see. What can we do while he is... Well, we could just work on maybe clearing out and setting up a little bit of a fresh thing in here, because I don't think we're going to need, let's see, types on here. We also, with the new way that we're doing this, we're not going to need values. We're just going to be doing our on change. We got our, let's see. Warning. Oh, that was just him dropping from the call, looks like. Okay. Okay. Just want I got a ping in my ears. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything from Courtney while he tries to get reconnected. You know, I'm going to real quick. I'm going to resend him the invite link to make sure he can get back into the room here. Gotta wait for LinkedIn to load. Slow platform. I mean, my previous link is still there. So I'll wait and see if there's something that that he needs from me, or if he lets me know about something. Okay. I assume he might be needing to like restart his computer or something, so it might be just a minute. Yeah, so we can kind of clear some of this stuff out. I also think, I mean, some of these names are just bad. So I think let's update some of these. So I don't know, do we just call it task name? So we've got our description, which is probably going to end up being a text box, or we can work on that a little bit later. Courtney was using the word, the stuff, task name. Do we just call it task? Like that? Task here as well. Task name, and then we can cut that. Oh, come on. Cut inner tag, please. Thank you. Task description. All right, let's see. Looks like I got a message. Looks like he's having an internet issue suddenly. So we will we'll see if he'll be able to rejoin. I think we're getting close to our hour anyways. We would probably continue for a little bit longer if he can get back on, but if not, we might have to just call it a day here. So we got description, handle change, task name, and then priority. Let's see. Priority is going to end up being, I don't know, we can make that like a select box, actually. I think, is that an input, or is there actually a, it's been a little while since I've done that. I made one myself before. Okay. He's back in, good. Make co-host. Back in the room. Oh, I heard something. I hear something. Hello?
Yeah, am I coming through?
Yes, you are. I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened.
That's all right. We got it figured out. I'll let you work. You can work on getting resettled.
Yeah, give me a moment.
Yeah, you're just fine. So yes, so I started. Typing and talking is tough. I've started just kind of like going over our form and trying to update our elements a little bit to reflect some of the changes you were talking about. Let's see, this one isn't going to need a, well, it might need a label. We'll leave a label on there. Can have a label. And let's see, this is going to need an ID, priority, matching the HTML4 there. And then we're also going to have options. And I don't know, we can name these, but we should actually probably dynamically create these instead of creating them in line here for our different options. I like that idea. So why don't we do that? Let's go, where do we want to do that? Above. Let's go back up to here and let's create priority options. It's going to be equal to, so we're going to need a value and a label. So we're going to create an array of objects, and we're going to have label, and we will have a value. Now, we talked about our, excuse me. Yeah, clear my throat real quick. I'm going to mute. Okay, so each one of these. Hello?
Hi, you see me?
I see you and I hear you. That's
Nothing like an internet hiccup right at the end of the stream.
right at the end. Yes. I'll finish my thought here real quick, and then we can. So I was going to make, for our priority, I was going to make a select box. Right, we're going to use the select box to choose from a selection of options, and I want to dynamically create these options. So each option is going to be an object with a label and a value, and the value. Let's see. So our first one here, what do we want to call this? Like, what's the label that we want? High, medium, low, first, second, third, 1, 2, 3. How do we want the UI to look?
High, medium, low sounds good to me. That's a good starting point.
Oops. Yeah. So high now is, so we should probably go with the higher number for the higher priority, because then you can filter them based on if a priority is higher or lower than the other priorities. So because I could also see like priority 1 also sounds like
a top priority,
top priority, but we'll go highest number, and then we can actually, let's go here and then see if I can do some fun Vim magic real quick. Oh, that was too much fun Vim magic. Medium, replace with, come on, replace with 2. Replace with 2, thank you. Low, replace with 1. Okay, so we've got our, what don't you like? Don't you like? I'm just having Vim issues. Oops. So I want priority options, and then we're going to come back down here. And instead of this, we're going to set up a section where we can do some dynamic, and we're going to choose our priority options, map each item, and for each item, we want to return. So we're going to do this in parentheses. We want to return an option item where our, in here we do item dot label. Shoot.
I think you have to put them in braces, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, okay. For some reason, I thought because I was already in braces, I didn't need to do braces again. But that's.
I think it's because you're going back to essentially JSX, I believe, or I'm not sure actually how you define that section, but you're basically going back to like, oh, I'm building an HTML component or element.
Yeah. Yep. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. because I thought about it and I had the thought, oh, I need braces here, and I was like, no, I don't. Like, turns out I do. But yeah, that should create our. We can get rid of these couple of extra lines here. Oh, it added a select. No, I don't want that down there. Why is that down there? It's terrible. Form. Oh, it changed. Okay. Weird IDE things that's happened sometimes. Key. Yes, you need a key. So
That's
that can
right.
be unique to each. So item dot value. We'll just use that as the key. That'll be just fine. And then, so that should. Look at that. I haven't done that in a while. And I did it from memory, so I feel pretty good about that. I know that's some fairly rudimentary like JSX HTML understanding with like a few things, but that's a gratifying and fun little thing to be able to just throw together.
Like with anything, it's nice when it works.
Yeah, especially your first time. It doesn't matter how simple it is. Like you run it your first time and then it worked. Actually, it didn't work because I forgot the key. So I can't claim that. I gotta stay humble. We don't need this text up here either. Okay. Can we still? Let's see. Will our new prettier settings allow us to add some spacing in here and keep that spacing? Yes, it will. Okay, that looks a little bit nicer just to make some separation between those elements.
Much easier to read.
Okay, so what I did, Courtney, to catch you up, is I added our drop down to select priority.
Okay.
We still need to add the change handler to that, but I changed our name and ID on these. Because we had the task body, task name thing before, and I think it was just it didn't fit the new model that you were just currently outlining. So description
Sure.
is what we got here. I think this is going to change to a text box instead of just a standard input. We could talk about that a little bit later. And then I also just changed this to task. Thoughts on that? Like, should it be task name, or everything else is kind of single word, so it's just the task?
I would say
task name
task is
better?
fine, or name, but maybe not both.
Oh, just making it name?
Yeah.
Okay, that would make sense because you loop over these, you come down with the object, and then you could just go, task.name. I like, actually,
Exactly.
you're absolutely right. That's way better.
And actually, you know what might be easier is, can I just pass you what I've written? I'll just like message it to you, and then you can put it on yours. That way, we don't have to go through the process of me uploading and what do you call it?
Oh, merging and all that?
You pulling down and everything. We can just do it from your side if that's cool with you.
Yeah, that would be just fine.
But
because it's just a comment, right?
It's just well, I guess I have the handle submit change, but that was simple enough if you want to do
the
that
type
too.
change, yeah. What was that? You changed that to
form event.
Event, just form event without any extra.
Yeah, and you have to import it as well from the React.
Okay. Sure.
Up top.
Inside of here, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. And then I do like this. We're just getting into like code organization now, but I do like this console log. If we're going to use something like that, we should have it up here. And I don't like this task data since we're renaming things. We're just going to name it task.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then I guess we're going to have to change all of these too, but we can. Let's see. Where did you send that?
Oh, I said it in the huddle, a personal huddle chat message.
Oh, the personal one. Okay, I was like, I'm looking here and I don't see it. Okay. So yeah, this is Courtney's. We were doing this. Were you doing it right here, or?
Yeah, I had it right there since it's sort of relevant to the HTML.
Let's see. It'll just. Oh, it's not going to It's not going to format it, really.
Of course, it won't.
Oh, this is okay. So another thing about this. Geez. Okay. Now my Vim is actually causing me some annoying.
Oh, because it takes you to the end of the.
It's part of the autocomplete that I have on here, and it does some funky stuff for me. But Nope. I want there. Now, if we save that, we'll okay, something like that. Okay, it wants it there. There we go. So what you didn't have on yours, but is actually needed, is a new star at the beginning of each of these lines. Then it will give it a new line.
Oh, I see. Good to know. Good to
That
know.
wasn't, and I didn't catch that either. So there we have more of that. And we have our oh, let's do it here as well. There we go. And
And
let's
so the only
call
things
this
I'd
task.
added, I'm
Task
embarrassed to say
J,
how much
maybe.
I'd been speaking until I realized I'd been disconnected. I think I probably disconnected while I was talking about due date, though.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Basically, I just set that up as probably an optional date string as well. And then the last thing was a completed field, which is just a Boolean. It's either false or it's true.
Hmm.
I figured the default could be false because why put something on if it's already true?
Yeah. So what we should absolutely do is we should make this a type.
Oh,
We
okay.
should make it a type
Yeah,
script type so we can enforce this type upon our state and our
like a
objects.
task type.
Yep. Yep. We can
Okay.
make that in our own like what is it? Types. Is it just a types J like a types.ts? It
You think it like a global type file?
models.ts. Yeah, I can't remember. There's a convention for the usual name of your file that just holds like all of your types and your interfaces.
It's like global dot. Oh gosh, I want to say it's global dot d dot ts or something like that.
Oh, okay. You're going a little bit even more detailed than or thorough than I was thinking. I was just thinking about like just the naming convention of it. Like it's
I
just like
see.
types or I think it's just like types.ts is what I've seen before maybe. But yeah, I don't know that the whole .d thing. I've seen that pattern a few times. I'm not entirely sure
Maybe another time,
for the purpose.
like the next week I'm here, we can set up a global file. I go back and forth on whether that's useful. On one hand, it's nice to get the typing out of each component, like the defining of each type, because it just makes it again easier to read, a much smaller file.
Easier
But
to maintain. If you need to make changes, you make changes in one place.
exactly, there's that too, and that's probably the main strength is the maintenance. But then sometimes I do find it gets annoying to have to keep navigating between files to check up on what was involved in this type,
Mm,
but maybe a
yeah.
small price to pay for what we get in return.
Yeah, I would say so. I like having the types and things. Well, I mean, the caveat is it will it be used in more than one spot in your location or not? If it's only used in
Ah,
this component, then just put it in this component. Don't dirty up other places because you only have it in one place. If you plan to use it in more than one component or location, then absolutely put it in a central file so you can again you can make one change in one place and it'll spread it out to everywhere else you import it.
and there's a good chance that, for instance, what we're talking about here, like the task type, would be used in multiple places
Yep, absolutely, and in the back end.
and in the back end. That's right.
So it would make sense to do that for sure.
Okay, I'll put it on the list.
Yeah, I mean, I added a little note here. Turn this into a type.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
I like to add little exclamation points to make it so that your eye grabs it. That's why I end up making all my to-do items red because I know that if it's red, I'll look at it. But if it's another color, I might just gloss over it. So, okay. So, yeah, we are at time, unfortunately. I mean, we can obviously keep going if we want, but we've done a bit today. We can shoot for more next time. But you're not going to be here next week, right?
Yeah, I'll miss the next 2 Fridays.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We can
And then
discuss that how we want to handle that a little bit later. That's fine.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And I had this note written here too, but this is just talking about how we ended up after the stream ended up changing this event type to prevent having to do a type coercion within this handle change. And this works a lot better. So that we'll just get rid of that.
That feels like a more appropriate way to type specifically what we're doing here. Type
Add,
input changes.
yep. And it eliminates an entire line and a whole bunch like a bunch of extra confusing TypeScript. So I made a bunch of changes here. And for time's sake, I don't have to commit this on screen. That's fine. We'll I can take care of that afterwards. We can back out for now. Yeah, so that was that episode. We covered the console log thing up front. We talked about adding prettier, which is going to make collaborating so much easier. We added our music. We have tunes to go and listen to, and then we started talking about our data shape, and I kind of organized and updated our form a little bit. We got some reactive mapped options inside of a select box, which is a fun pattern. Yeah, I think we're good. I think that was pretty good. Do you have any thoughts? Final things to say?
Just that configuration takes time. It's not
Yeah,
only figuring out how it works, making sure that you're implementing it correctly. There's also figuring out what you want to configure. Even going through our prettier file. There was one more thing I thought that we could possibly talk about, but we'd already spent so much time on it. It wasn't necessarily worth slowing down. But as we go, there might be things we make, changes we make, and maybe we don't have to go so in depth on all of them. But one thing is, I know we talked about configuring our color scheme. Spencer and I picked out a color scheme, and he went ahead and created uh, he created essentially a Coolors color scheme. Is it Coolors? I always forget how that's
I always just
pronounced.
call it cool. Oh, it is. It should be Coolors. That's right.
Yeah.
I see the OR there, but yeah, these are the colors we're planning on using.
And so that'll be its own moment of configuration in the Tailwind file, I assume,
Yep.
the Tailwind config file. And there's different ways to do that too. I'm curious how you've done this in the past. I don't actually have a ton of experience here, so this is something that I'll be looking forward to either seeing on your stream next week or doing with you
Yeah.
upon return.
So last time I was talking about, Tailwind has built-in color themes, right? Wrong.
Yes.
That's wrong.
Oh.
I need to correct myself. It's Daisy UI, which is a
Mm,
component library, a really good component library actually, that is built on top of or built using Tailwind. So it integrates seamlessly with Tailwind, all of the components, and then they have a whole bunch of built-in color schemes that are super easy to access. You just you have your Daisy UI. You have a Daisy UI. Is this inside of the it's inside of the Tailwind config. You add another aspect of it, which will be Daisy UI themes, and then you just put in light, and it'll choose this light theme. Or if you put in dark, it'll choose the dark theme. Or these will be a list of options, and then you can toggle between them with like a theme switcher in your app or something. So this is what I was thinking, but this is not native to Tailwind. This is a Daisy UI. Um, I kind of like the coffee one. It's
I liked that one too. That definitely spoke to me. I
kind of fun.
I'm interested. Maybe we'll see how we feel about this color scheme in the coming weeks. But I did like the way that this is laid out. What? It's always just another thing. Creating separate themes for your page, having a light and a dark theme. It's yet another thing to do, and I do think there's value in knowing how, but also there's value in sometimes just to keep development rather moving, adopting something pre-done because they have great people that have studied design, I'm sure, and have put these together from
Yeah.
standpoint of how websites look these days. I don't know.
Yeah, I like the idea of sticking with our color. We can talk about it, but sticking with the colors that we found, and then putting those in as primary, secondary, background color, border color, shadow color, whatever, and then building out our components using those pre-done colors. I think that's a fun process. It takes more time, and like I said, Daisy UI is a fantastic uh, UI library. It's really
Hmm.
really good, and on all of their components. So most of their components are they're just classes, right? So they're pre-done classes. But then you can edit a component just by putting additional Daisy Tailwind classes onto that component, and it will
Hmm.
always prioritize the ones that you add on top of whatever comes standard with their
Ooh.
component.
Oh,
And
that's
the
nice.
styling all looks really good. Yeah, it's a great component library. So I absolutely recommend anybody out there looking for a good component library to check that out. But I think at least for the beginning, we can do something manually. We could always
Yeah,
go over to Daisy. We could start using Daisy, but then just outline our own theme as well for it.
I'm interested in how could we set up our own set of themes the way that Daisy has it, but that do it ourselves basically instead
Yeah,
of
yeah.
necessarily utilizing theirs.
We need to stream an hour every day.
Yeah, just to get one of these
There's
functions ready.
Man, there is too much, and we enjoy chatting. The hang is absolutely part of this, but then the learning and then stopping to think and discuss, and you just end up moving so slowly. Um, so I don't know. We'll think maybe we go multi-week if we can arrange it, but we'll see. That's a whole nother time commitment. Um, Anyways, yeah,
But for
yeah,
now, I suppose that's good. That's we'll call that a week.
yeah. We should call it a wrap for sure. Let's see. All right. So thank you everybody for joining. We'll see you again next week. I will. I'll figure out something to do. Maybe I'll have a guest on, and we'll work on something else. I don't want to really go down further this direction without Courtney, so we'll figure out something to do next time. But yeah, otherwise, everybody have a great weekend, and thanks for checking us out. We'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.
Okay, so the live stream uh, on LinkedIn is done. That is closed. Um,
Ugh, man, losing internet. This happens from time to time in my neighborhood. I have no idea why.
it's a huge bummer, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I
it
just
happens.
decided to code something real quick because we hadn't actually done any of that yet, so I knew that we could just kind of brush some of that up, and um, that's good.
No, that's a good move. That's a good move. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, geez, man, going like twice a week would be fantastic because like 1 hour. I mean, how often do you think you have a development project and you have 1 hour before something else, and you go, I can get something done in that hour? Like,
I mean, how many times do I think that? All the time. How many times is that true? Never.
I know already that like I can't sit down to seriously work on a code thing unless I have at least 2 hours
Yeah.
because you're just not going to get anywhere.
The first hour is like handling all the things that need to be handled before you can really approach the problem. In many
Yeah,
cases, at least. Unless it's
or
something you've done a million times, you know.
yeah,
I don't know.
even maybe you can get up and running like pretty quickly. Um, it takes me 5 minutes to get the local environment like started up and running and ready to go for like the Nebulae project. It takes me 5 minutes to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
but even if you can get up and running quickly, you by the time you're actually like, okay, what am I doing? You organize your thoughts, you figure out which files you got those open and split, and then you like, okay, and then you get started, and then you get on a roll, and then maybe you have like 20 minutes of like focused work time out of that. I don't know. Maybe that's ridiculous, but getting into focus and flow state like takes a little while, and then you have to
Yeah,
break it
that's
out.
true.
So, nah, we don't have to sit here and talk for an extra 45 minutes after the end of stream like we did last time. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say if you wanted to keep up on this app, with like by yourself or with a guest or whatever, that's okay. I mean, I'll be back and um, we'll just pick it up from wherever you're at that point. I wouldn't mind that, but I understand if you want to do other diversions or something.
I don't. I'd have to come up with something else to do. I have a few buddies that I'm sure would be okay with or say yes to joining on and being a guest. But then if I did something different with one of them, what would it be?
Hmm,
Um, and there it'd be like a single time appearance, or at least for now, right? Because then you'll be back, and then we just pick up again. So,
yeah,
it's like in 1 hour bringing on somebody new to then start a whole nother thing specific for that person, and then be done after 1 hour. Like seems like not great. So maybe
yeah. That's
working
not time
on
for another
this.
project necessarily,
No.
but yeah, work on this. I mean, this is like we're not reinventing the wheel, so it's not like you know, not huge deals if other
Yeah.
perspectives and everything are brought in on it.
Yeah,
Or
I'll see
maybe
if I
we
can.
are reinventing the wheel. Is that exactly what we're doing?
I mean, kind of, yes, but again, it's a medium.
Yeah,
So, I mean, maybe I'll find somebody, and I mean, if nothing else, I don't find anybody, and I just work on it on myself for an hour. But I think it's much
yeah.
more fun with somebody. So I'll see, and then maybe we push it forward a little. Maybe we focus on something else, like we focus on the styling of the page instead of the guts of it.
Mm, yeah. Even setting up that config for Tailwind will be worth
Yeah, the
that.
colors.
That's probably a day, honestly.
I might be able to do it off stream, but I also intended to do a whole bunch of other stuff off stream this week, and that never happened.
Word.
So we'll see. But yeah,
But yeah, okay. Message me. Let me know what you're thinking. But I'm cool with it all.
okay, cool. When are you leaving?
I leave Thursday next week.
Okay, all right.
I was gonna say I don't know what your schedule is like. We could potentially do a non-Friday next week. Um, though now that
Yeah,
I say that, I mean Tuesday or it couldn't be Monday, so it would have to be
no,
Tuesday or Wednesday.
yeah, we could. We could just bump it up, and then we don't have to. We don't. All the things we just talked about become non-issues. Um, what days? Like you're saying Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. My flight's actually not till late on Thursday, but I just don't know if I want to do like same day, have
Mm,
another thing. So
yeah.
Wednesday would probably be best if possible.
Okay.
Um,
I got a
I
few
could make.
things on. I've got a few things on Wednesday, but we could do it potentially later in the day on Wednesday. Like it would have to be after like 1:30 my time, which would be like what's that's like 11:30 your time. Um,
Yeah, that's fine
so
too. Also, Tuesday is cool too. Monday is no good for me,
yeah, so
and yeah,
I'm
no,
looking
not
at
Thursday.
so I've got this this technical project that I need to
Mm,
build, and Tuesday is one of my big open days. So that I already have that kind of like squared off to like I'm just going to be slamming that all day that day. So I prefer not to do Tuesday. I want to save that
okay,
to
that's fine.
really invest on the
And
project.
honestly, if we don't need to force it either. If there's just
Well,
if the
did later in the day on Wednesday not sound like it would work for you? Like,
oh no, no, that would work for me. Yeah,
okay, it's not a
you're talking
struggle
like
for me. It's
11:30
just that
or
it would just have to be later based on I've got a couple lessons and a dentist appointment.
okay.
So it would overlap with Anna's group call.
That's
Um,
right.
but I'm not dead set on making that either.
Same, same. Yeah, let's go with let's tentatively say Wednesday
Okay,
then
okay.
this next week.
Yeah, I would like to continue on with you. That'd be great if possible. And I'm all about getting back around to this sooner because, like you said, I'm looking forward to Wednesdays now every time because
Yeah,
I know we're gonna do this, and it's a load of fun. I really enjoy it.
it's fun and it's nice. I mean, like I'm learning quite a bit, honestly, just with all the like the tab character, space character. I had no idea those are considered different by like
Mm,
I guess the underlying program or what have you. I didn't know those are different things.
yeah,
What's good to know? But okay, man. I'm gonna head out right now, but
awesome.
we'll message and stuff. Have a good weekend. You got any gigs before I go? Coming up this
Uh,
weekend, I mean.